Hello YouTube, Nick Bolord here, casting directly from the Sahara Desert. I'm not joking, this is the actual Sahara Desert. It is about 40 degrees out here right now. It is extremely hot. I'm here with my friends, as well as the friendly camel Cappuccino. Hello Cappuccino. So, did you guys ever knew that the word Sahara actually means desert in Arabic? So when people say Sahara Desert, they're actually saying desert, desert. And that actually sounds very stupid. But at one point, somebody made a mistake and thought that was the name of this desert, and it's been used ever since. And since people can make a mistake, everybody else can make a mistake as well, and so can the Yu-Gi-Oh! Printing company. So today, we're here to talk about the type of mistakes that they made. We call them the misprints. Okay, so before we move on to the actual cards, let's quickly review the simple rules for misprints. First of all, if it looks different than how it's supposed to look like, then it's a misprint. Next, I use pretty simple classifications. It's either something is wrong with the title, or something is wrong with the picture, or something else is wrong. And lastly, when I try to value the cards, I try to see if this is a mass release or is this a one-time printing error, and whether the error is very rare, like a very severe one, or is it a very common printing mistake. And same as last time, I'll be keeping the grid up on the right top corner so you can always see how I classify and how I value the cards. And since we already saw the title misprint last time, today we'll be looking at misprints with the picture. Okay, here I am, back at home again. I really considered taking this binder with me to the desert to present it to you, but unfortunately I don't think the binder will survive the trip or the weather over there, and I really don't want to sacrifice my cards. So here we are, back here in my home. Come over, let's take a look at these cards. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna show you the cards. So first of all, we have the Turtle Tiger from the Legend of the Blue Eyes. You can see there are some ink misprint. This one is actually a mass release, so you can find many copies for this. Another even more common one is the Fiend Reflection number 2. As you can see, the picture on this side has weird cutting patterns. It's like they took these little two pieces and they reversed their order. Also very common. And then down here we have the early Sword of the Dark Destruction from the first structure deck. As you can see, some of the prints does not have the electric evil aura around the sword. Relatively common card as well. And then here we have the Book of the Secret Arts that does not have a feather on the side. The later prints, as you can see, have a feather above the book. So this particular one is a North American version. And then down here I have a Asian English version as well. Next, we have some attribute misprints. So the first one is Metal Dragon. It's supposed to be wind attribute, but some of the early Japanese version have it printed as dark attribute. And same here, Nitro Warrior is supposed to be fire attribute, but then I think the early dual terminal version has it printed as wind. And then we also have the Kinetic Soldier, one of the more messed up cards that was later renamed as well. It was supposed to be Earth attribute, but it was printed as light in the CP pack as well. And then if we're talking about attributes, we cannot ignore the ever so famous Goblin Attack Force. This was the OG of the attribute misprint. It was supposed to be Earth attribute, but some of the early releases have the attribute printed as a star. I still remember people arguing whether this should be a 4-star or 5-star monster. Definitely is a superstar. And here we have the Dark Paladin. So what happened was, this was the misprint. The art was actually used incorrectly on the first edition when it was first released. So if you do actually send it back to the factory, they will actually issue you another first edition card with the correct art. Not everybody did this back then, so the actual right art version is actually a bit more rare than the misprint version. Down here, we have the Neo Wiseman that was incorrectly printed as a fusion monster in Korean. One of the cooler misprints, but also very common and easy to find. And here we have some more attribute misprints. If you look at this card, you can see that the attribute itself is actually hollow, which is not supposed to be the case. So this is a Infernity Dwarf, and down here we have the Infernity Guardian with similarly a hollow attribute as well. And the same kind of error happened on a DB1 Rigeki as well, as you can see. Sorry, as you can see that the attribute is hollow as well. Okay, and next we move on to incorrect hollow. Let's say. So we have this Neo Flamvale Origin. You can see that the card on the left, I don't know if you can see this at all. The card on the left is supposed to be a super rare version that have hollow imaging on the picture. But if you look at the one on the right, it's actually just a common card that have no hollow at all. So some of the HA packs have this misprint. This Secret Spirit of the Ice Barrier is another example. The one on the left has hollow on the photo, whereas the one on the right is just a common card. Unfortunately, as you can see, this card has a dent. But still a cool misprint though. And we also have the the dual terminal cards that does not have the special kind of dual terminal star hollows or shatter hollow that you have. And down here we have the Blade Knight from the first collector tin. So they actually made a lot of these, so they were supposed to be secret rare, right? Secret rare lettering and secret rare hollowing, but some of the early prints only have a super or ultra rare picture, and it applies to the entire set, right? Here we have an Insect Queen that does not have secret rare, and a Celtic Guard that does not have the secret rare as well. And I actually want to point out that it is possible to have, not quite fake, but Orica misprint as well. This is a very good example where the card itself is supposed to be super rare, but as you can see here, we have a secret rare of the Photon Saber Tiger. This is actually a Orica card. So I'll have a different video another time to talk about these quote-unquote fake Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And down here we have a very common ultimate rare that does not have the proper hollow. As you can see on the left, this maximum 6 is supposed to have the ultimate rare pattern, but on the right we just have just the title that's golden, but there's nothing on the picture. The maximum 6 is pretty common, but there are other ultimate rare cards that does not have the proper hollow that is a lot harder to find. For example, down here I have a machine duplication that does not have the hollow but have the ultra title on top. And also here I have the Vanity's Ruler, also golden title but nothing on the card, right? It looks just like a common normal card. So these two are a bit more rare than the maximum 6. And then on the side I have these Solar Recharge. It does have a bit of hollow if you look closely, but as you can see, right, when you inspect the cards under reflection, there is still not that much hollow, so the printing is actually not very obvious. These are from the LDT pack, and I just want to have a comparison, right? So I have here a BLLR pack. As you can see, the hollowing is pretty obvious when you look at it, a lot more obvious than the one above. So these are the cards that does not have the proper hollow on them. And then next, we have these cards that only have a partial proper hollow on them. The first one is one of my favorites, the number 39 Utopia. The one on the left is harder to see, but if you look at one of the other two, you can see, you can clearly see that the ultra rare is only partially applied on this card. It's really weird, but there are some part of the cards that has ultra rare and some part does not. And this is not a one-time printing error because I have two cards here that have the identical type of
That's called partial ultra rare. So it's an interesting misprint. Not very, valuable, but definitely is cool. And down here, I have a cool Naturia Mantis. And this card, as you can see, only has a partial dual terminal hollow. The left side of the card has it, the right side does not. This is actually pretty cool. I like this kind of partial hollow. And then I think the coolest part of my collection on the partial hollow are these ultimate rares that is missing a piece. First, I have a card trader. As you can see, right, this card trader has is largely covered in ultimate rare except for this upper right corner, which is missing the proper hollow. And similarly here, I have the Dark World Dealing that is, I don't know, 70% covered in ultimate rare, and it's also missing a piece. And then on the side here, I have the Skyscraper number 2, Hero City. So, this card only has about maybe 40–45% that actually has the proper ultimate rare covered. The other side does not have the covering. Really, really nice. And down here, I have two cards that have even less. This XYZ Reflect only has like 10% of it covered in ultimate rare. You can see even the bottom border is not completely fully covered in ultimate rare. And similarly up here, as you can see, the printing is not properly imprinted as well. And then here we have the Insector Sword, even less so. Only a tiny piece of ultimate rare here, some in the border, and only along this side that has ultimate rare. And you can see similarly here it's missing a lot of ultimate rare as well. So this kind of ultimate rare card that only has a partial imprint on it is actually pretty rare. I've seen some very interesting listings on eBay, and they can cost like a lot or a lot, right? Such as this one or this one. So, if you see one, definitely keep it. It's a cool piece for your collection. Okay, next we're moving on to another category, right? This is actually a miscut, right? Well, you may say, hey, why are you including a miscut in the misprint collection? Well, technically, misprint is just an error, and miscut is also a type of error, and sometimes it's actually hard to differentiate whether the card is actually cut improperly or printed improperly, and I'll show you why. All right, so I'll start with some basic miscut first. When I collect miscut cards, I generally like to have the one that at least is missing one of the border of the card. And if it's showing a piece of another card, right, especially like this, where you can see some of the coloring as well as the Anubis, I think that's good enough for me to keep in my collection. So here I have quite a few of them that are all like that. As you can see, they're all missing kind of one part of the card border, and then they're also showing a little piece of the other card. Pretty interesting. But next, I'll show you something even more interesting. It looks similar to the other pieces, right? Well, you can see these ones actually have a white border on this. But what you're looking at right now is actually a set of cards from the early set Labyrinths of the Nightmare. And these are all first edition cards. And these cards are not normal miscuts, and I'll tell you why, right? You can say, hey, you have so many cards here, some even have white border. It's very simple to achieve, right? Just buy a whole uncut sheet, and you can cut these out yourself. That is true, except that in this case, they are actually a little unique. Why? If you look at the cards, right, they actually have their Eye of Anubis printed at where they're supposed to be. Not shifted, not part of the top, but where the card is supposed to be. So that is one indication that tells me, hey, maybe the imaging of the card is printed incorrectly as opposed to be cutted incorrectly. What's another clue? Another clue is if I take this card out, I can show you. As you can see, the back of the card is not misaligned, only the front of the card, right? So what this tells me is that the back sheet is aligned properly, the Anubis is aligned properly, but the card art itself is not printed in the right location. And I have a whole large set of it As you can see, these cards actually have different cards above them as well. That is why I'm putting my Miscut collection alongside the other, cards that have image issues. And I love this set a lot. This is one of my favorite set of cards for my Miscut collection. If you have something like this, it's absolutely cool, and I would love to see a photo as well. And this is the last one. And that is my entire set of LON Miscuts. Down here, I have a little cute piece. As you can see, it's not really a huge miscut. It's only just missing basically the top border, whereas the bottom border is a bit wide. But at the same time, this is the Gaia the Dragon Champion that have the secret rare picture but ultra rare title. So this is technically a double misprint. It just, this card is not super valuable, so I'm not gonna talk too much about it, but I think it's cool to have two errors on the same card. And then on the bottom, we have these cards that are misaligned on the back, but properly aligned on the front. Basically, exactly the opposite of what we were looking at, right? This is Jinsu number 7. Back is misaligned. Here I have a petite moth, also properly aligned on the front, misaligned on the back. And then here we have a German needleworm. Once again, properly aligned on the front, misaligned on the back. So yeah, I think relatively speaking, these kind of miscuts, I've seen them from time to time. They're not super valuable either, but I think if you like miscuts, they will be pretty cool to add to your collection. Okay, next we're gonna move on to the, the hollow part of the miscuts. These are not major as before. The only difference is now these are, secret rare or golden rare or ultra rare, which makes them a little cooler. But most of these cards is just really just missing, a border. And here on the right are the cooler miscuts that I have. Right? These are secret rare, ultra rare cards that are severely miscutted. When I say severe, I mean you can really see a part of another card that you can actually see their title. So these two cards are Italian miscuts. Here I have a Germany miscuts. Down here I have another Italian Stardust Dragon that is a big miscut. This is an English Stardust Dragon, only missing a border. And then on the side I have this Raptor Wing Strike. I actually have both the top and bottom of the same card. And here I have the Nightwing Sorcerers and the Morphotronic Force Field. These are all very large miscuts. So I think generally speaking, when you're collecting miscuts, these are the type of cards that you should go for, as they, are really cool. And next, I have these, I would call them like angled miscuts, because as you can see, right, this card here is a miscut on one side of the border, but it's not straight either, right? The spell canceller is actually a bit angled. And this Photon Leo is one of my favorite. As you can see, the angle is very severe, that is actually missing a whole corner of the card, right? It's like, I don't know, 10-15 degrees tilted. And here we have this hummingbird. Also, as you can see, there's clearly an angle when this card was cut. The card itself is still in the perfect shape. It's just the whole thing was tilted a little bit, which makes it pretty cool. And down here, I have two, I guess you can call them uncut cards. The one on the left is the G3-11. This is one of the original Dark Magician that was released in Japan as a prize card. And I don't know, people are calling this a test print card that was uncut and does not have a title. I honestly don't even know if this is real or not, but the quality is pretty good. It didn't cost me a leg to get, so I think it's a cool piece to have in this miscut collection. And on the right here, we have the Cardinal, which is also an uncut card. That is a full size before the border was properly cut. And on the bottom, we have these interesting bionic cards, right? So these are actually Yu-Gi-Oh cards that somehow got mixed into the bionic card pack releases, right? So the size is much larger than a normal Yu-Gi-Oh card. As you can see, they're almost like the size of an uncut Yu-Gi-Oh card. And at the same time, they also have these gigantic Upper Deck logo on the very bottom right corner. So yeah, so this is also very cool. This kind of like a 4 card in one. So they're somewhat hard to find, and they are very cool to be part of the Uncut collection. And here I have a Wabaku, also back-to-back card. Okay, next we're getting into the interesting part of the picture misprints, which is the shifted hollow. I just want to first point out that a lot of the cards, especially in the early packs, such as LOB, MRD, they have shifted hollow like this one. You can, if you look at it closely, you can kind of see that there's a tiny bit of shift on the very top. So tiny if you look at it. I don't even know if you can tell, but there's like a tiny bit of shift on these cards. So small right here. It's like maybe half a millimeter. So these cards are technically misprints, but they're really not worth that much. I'm just keeping them here because, for one, I don't have many of these misprints, and for two, I just want to show you the ones that are not worth much. The ones that are worth more is when the pictures start to shift a little bit more. If you look at this polymerization, the shift is much larger compared to the one above, which is tiny. This one is larger. This starter pack Dark Magician has like a bit of shift down here, as you can see, maybe about 1 millimeter. And here we have the Elephantis that has about maybe 1/2 millimeter of shift. So as the hollow shift gets larger and larger, the card become a bit more valuable. Here I have an identical Elephantis as well. And then here I have a Change of Heart. The shift is also very tiny, but I actually kept this card. Why? Because one, this is a very good condition first edition card. Right? First edition Change of Heart, I love. And second of all, out of all the Change of Heart shifted hollow that I've seen, this one is the cutest. Because if you look at it, her eyes shifted down enough just so the hollow looks like her blush, which is really cute. So I like this card. And here I have the Injection Fairy Lily. Once again, not a huge shift, but as you can see, it's LD, first edition, good condition, so I think this card in itself is worth collecting. And now I'm moving on to cards that have a bit more of a shift. This is a Soul Exchange and Card Destruction. As you can see, the hollow both shifted quite a bit, right? So this is now getting into the category where it's shifted enough to become a valuable collection. Here I have a Kazijin that have a pretty large shift as well. Down here I have a a French black illusion ritual. As you can see, the fairly large shift up here, and here I have the relinquished. The relinquished also has a relatively large shift. Here I have a catapult turtle that have about 2 millimeter of shift, pretty cool. Down here I have a Celtic Guardian, somewhat sizable of a shift. A B Skull Dragon, this one shift is pretty large as well. Let me see, kind of better angle. Let's see. Yeah, here you can see that the shift is fairly large right here, shifted all the way down here. And here I have a Cyber Blader. The shift is very obvious. The top part is missing a hollow. And I actually saw this exact card being posted on eBay for 2,000 euro. If you want to, I'll put the link in the comments and feel free to take a look. And here I have a German Axe of Disappear. Very large hollow, right? Shifted all the way down here, almost a third down from the picture. Here I have also a very large Tomb World, also a very large, maybe about a quarter of shifting down. Here I have a Book of Life, also very large, about a quarter down from the picture as well. Here I have a Soul Exchange, and this is a very good shift. As you can see, is shifted all the way up. The entire bottom half is missing the hollow, whereas it's all the way up here. And here I have a set of Dark Magician and Celtic Guardian from very likely the same print, because you can see both the hollow is shifted up by almost like 40%. So these are really cool. And down here I have some ultimate rare shifts, right? So the ultimate rare shifts are very easy to identify. As you can see, right, the image shifted quite a bit. It's very easy to identify. This one actually shifted to the right as well. And then very lastly, I just have one of this, but this is like a ghost rare misprint. Let me see if I can find a good angle on this. Oh, here, as you can see on the very left side of the border, can you see how the actual typhoon is shifted all the way to the left outside as well? I can't find a better angle than that, but essentially this picture is shifted leftwards. Oh, here you go. You can see how it's shifted downwards as well. So this is a ghost rare shifted hollow. And that's it for the shifted hollow section. Okay, for the last page, I'm gonna take the card outside because it's a little easier to see once the card is outside. And most of the cards from this page are from the set Cosmo Blazer. That's a pretty awesome name for a pack because it's always reminding me of the Dodgeball movie clip.
And introduce you to the team that will be winning the Las Vegas International Dodgeball Open. My team. Allow me the pleasure of introducing you to Blade, Laser, Blazer.
So I'm not going to show you every single card because some of the cards are very hard to see on the camera because the card art itself is a little dark. But basically this is a very good example where you can see the card itself is Bonfire Colossus, German version, but there's clearly a patch, a hollow ink here that is really the image of the Kickfire. So this is basically what this set is about. And what's interesting about this set is that they don't only have one misprint, but sometimes the same card can have different images on it. So let me show you an example. The Mystic Fairy is the best example. For example, this one, you can clearly see that on the card there is the shadow of the spellbook shadow on it. It's very easy to tell. And this card beside it has the shadow of the Kickfire on it. Also very easy to see. And lastly, on the side, we have this card that has the Noble Knight, Murderant on it. Yeah, so this is very easy to tell. And then on the other side, we have these cards that are pretty hard to tell. Like for example, this card has the shadow of the Pyrex on it, but you really, unless seeing some of the weird hollow here, you really can't make it out because the card art is so dark. I can't even tell what this is just from by looking at the card. So it's not easy to see. But what's interesting is that for this set, they don't only have this type of error in the German set, they also have it in the Spanish set as well. Because, for example, right here, I have this one card. You can see the hollow is obviously not where it's supposed to be. This is actually a Colossus Bonfire because you can see this, I don't know if you can tell, but that's the big tower over there on this side, and there's a small tower right beside it. So this is a Spanish misprint of the same kind. And here I also have a Spanish Noble Knight that also has the image of another card, which in this case happened to be the Abyss Lid. There, if you look at the head, you can see the armor and everything right there inside this card. So this set is pretty interesting. I don't have the whole set, but I think this set, if you want to collect, can actually turn into a pretty large collection. And very lastly, I just want to show you this other card. It's a very famous misprint. It's the early version of the Mystical Space Typhoon, but it has a very faint image of the Sujin in there. So pretty cool card. Also kind of one image inside of another card. And that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the misprint cards. Okay, well, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the second misprint video that I have. And same as last time, if you have any comments or feedbacks, feel free to let me know. I would love to see what collections you have. So shoot me some photos. And hopefully I can make my next video a little faster.
So I'll see you next time.
Thirsty. I am so thirsty and hungry and horny, but mostly just thirsty. I am so thirsty.